I am Grace Blake, 38 years old, CEO and founder of the Ocean View hotel chain in Miami Beach. 10 years ago, I left Orlando with nothing but my 2 hands and a single dream to build a career on my own feet. They called me reckless, the ungrateful daughter who abandoned her family to chase success in a city where anyone can be forgotten. Yet after countless sleepless nights filled with spreadsheets, scattered debts, and endless bank loans, the very first Ocean View hotel was born, a tiny beachfront inn that became my greatest pride. I remember opening day vividly, a sunny Miami afternoon, the ocean stretching out before me, and I stood in silence thinking, Grace, you did it. Every room, every lantern, even the orchids in the lobby carried my sweat and blood. I had no support beyond myself, no helping hand from parents, and certainly no sister Brooke beside me sharing the burden. To my family, my mother, Catherine, father, Leonard, and sister Brooke, I was just a failure, a homeless dreamer struggling with half-finished projects. My mother rarely called to check on my work. Instead, she reminded me not to forget Sunday dinner or to chip in a bit for birthday parties. When I told her I'd secured funding to open a second location, she replied simply, "Congratulations." I knew she was proud, but too guarded to show affection. My father quietly turned bolts on our country house, greeting me shyly whenever I visited. Brooke, on the other hand, was glamorous and popular with Orlando's social crowd. Every video call ended with her smiling politely before saying, "I'll call you back later, a guest just arrived." Because of all that, I hadn't returned to Orlando in nearly a year, not for busyness, but to avoid feeling like an outsider in my own family. All those hollow congratulations and cold nods made me wonder if I'd sacrificed too much for my success. Still, I have no regrets. Every step away from home was a step toward freedom. Even if my family never acknowledged it, I'm proud to have proven to myself that Grace Blake is neither anonymous nor a failure. I am the architect of my own empire, and no one, even sister or parents, has the right to belittle my dream. I still remember the exact moment I received that message. It was a Sunday afternoon just before the Miami sun fully set when my phone buzzed briefly. The screen displayed Mom Catherine Blake, but the content was nothing more than, "Dinner at 7 p.m. Don't be late, Mom." No exclamation point, no friendly emoji, not even "how are you" or "miss you." It was an order, nothing more. I bit my lip, staring at the cold words that instantly tightened my chest. It felt as if I wasn't their daughter, just a guest they invited, and the only thing they cared about was my punctuality. I hesitated for a few seconds, then grabbed my bag, locked my Miami Beach penthouse, and drove 3 hours back to Orlando. On the way, I thought about the countless nights I'd painstakingly scraped together every dollar to pay off my first hotel's debts. I remembered late-night work sessions, downing my 3rd cup of coffee before collapsing at the desk. And I asked myself, do they even care about those moments? When my car finally pulled up outside the family's grand home, I took a deep breath, determined to stay calm. The iron gate swung open, and I parked on the cobblestone path. A gentle breeze rustled the magnolia trees, their blossoms perfuming the air alongside the fresh coat of white paint on the walls. But there was no warmth here, only the harsh roles already assigned me, the dutiful daughter. Them, my parents and sister, ready to critique my sacrifices. Inside, I found my father Leonard silently reading the newspaper, his lips pressed in a thin line, seemingly waiting for an explanation. My mother Catherine stood in the foyer wearing a classic coat, her eyes sliding past me to check the family photos on a wooden table. No smile, just a brisk nod. I greeted her and she answered tersely, exactly on time. Then she walked away, leaving me to find my seat at the dining table on my own. Dinner began in silence. The soft yellow lighting created an intimate ambiance, but their words were sparse. They made small talk about Miami's weather, then immediately returned to their glasses of red wine. My sister Brooke threw a cutting remark. "We don't need many words between siblings. It's all clear enough." Her words were like a knife tip against my heart. It seemed they were simply waiting for me to slip up so they could pounce and tear me down further. I pushed my soup aside and took a deep breath. In that moment, I realized this invitation wasn't born of love. It was an empty obligation. They didn't care who I had become, only how much I could contribute. Every word, every nod confirmed I was just a walking wallet in their eyes. As everyone stood to leave, my mother looked me in the eye and said, "Thank you for coming. Don't forget next Sunday." I managed a nod and turned away before tears welled up. Stepping into the cool night air, I wondered, do I really need this family? On the drive back to Miami, I played soft music and let my phone rest silently. That evening's cold invitation, with all its indifference and emptiness, ignited in me an unwavering resolve I would never be the forgotten daughter again. I hadn't even shaken off the bitterness from that frosty dinner when Brooke sent a group text to the whole family. "Get ready for the $175,000 bash at Ocean View Grand. It has to be dazzling, red carpet, live band, champagne fountains, and of course, gold everywhere." I reread the message, my heart pounding not from excitement, but from shock. Brooke treated this party like her own royal coronation, and she bluntly inserted my name under primary sponsor. The next morning, we congregated in the hotel's grand lobby. Brooke glided in wearing a stunning emerald sequin gown draped in a hand-embroidered golden velvet cloak. She shook out her hair, flashed a grin, and grabbed the mic. "Grace, I hope you've budgeted enough to light up this event, because $175,000 isn't small change." Her voice was honey-sweet but cut like a knife. The room erupted in polite applause, everyone waiting for my response. I lifted my chin, forcing calm, though my chest was on fire. A decade of quiet toil building a hotel empire was suddenly reduced to mere pocket change for a birthday extravaganza. I exhaled slowly, pushed my coffee cup aside, and said softly, "Brooke, I'm not paying for this party." My tone was even but resolute. All eyes twitched toward me, some frowned, some gasped. Brooke froze, surprise flickering in her eyes before morphing into challenge. "You're not, but I put your name on the contract and Lucas got your verbal approval." She pounded the table for emphasis. The $175,000 contract, Ocean View Grand sponsor Grace Blake, lay open for everyone to see. Each line branded me as the financier. I offered a cold smile, my gaze steely. I never agreed to any of this. I pulled out my phone, tapped into my Brooke evidence folder, and pointed to the forged email and the voice memo from her mother. "You did this without asking." Silence fell like a curtain. Brooke's lips parted, her confidence wavering into panic. In that moment, I realized more than ever this family craved me not as a daughter, but as a purse to sponsor Brooke's golden cloak. They wanted the sparkle draped over Brooke, forgetting the real value of family. And I, Grace Blake, would no longer wear that meaningless golden cloak. I drove back to Miami Beach in silence, leaving behind the glittering yet hollow lights of Orlando. The penthouse door closed softly behind me, and all the noise of parties and the weight of their demands dissolved into nothing. I sank into my armchair, phone buzzing with Brooke's texts. "When are you going to pay?" And I didn't reply. Sometimes saying nothing is the most powerful move to seize control. I opened my laptop, the screen's glow illuminating my tired but determined face. The Brooke evidence folder sat unassumingly among dozens of others, but today it was marked in bright red in my mind. I clicked through, reviewing every recording, forged email, and every frame of that live stream, each piece undeniable proof. I didn't rush to send them anywhere. My silence would let them dig themselves deeper into the pit, believing I'd never speak up. That day I didn't call my mother, I didn't answer Brooke's messages, and I ignored emails from the family lawyer. My quiet made them furious. They expected that by staying calm, I'd eventually let it slide. But I knew this silence wasn't fear. It was power accumulation. It was the calm before the storm. Later that afternoon, I met with Tara Bennett, my marketing director, and the only ally I trusted. She looked me in the eye as I said, "Tara, they see me as an ATM. They think my silence means consent." She nodded understanding and quietly added security logs and financial reports to our dossier. Silence wasn't surrender. It was a calculated tactic. That evening back in my office, I lit a single candle and scrawled in white chalk on the blackboard hanging before me, "Grace Blake, no one wears the meaningless golden cloak." I closed my notebook, turned off the light, and let the laptop screen's blink on the Brooke evidence folder pierce the darkness. In that still moment, I felt the surge of energy. Silence is a weapon, and I was ready to wield it. Brooke's party kicked off with flashing lights and thumping music, but I chose to stay in the security room watching through monitors. That's where I witnessed her orchestrated public humiliation. When she stepped onto the stage, her voice boomed through the microphone. "Thank you all for joining my 33rd birthday at the Ocean View." Grand guests erupted in applause, and I clenched my fists. Brooke scanned the ballroom and finally locked eyes on me, who was hidden in the shadows. She flashed a malicious grin and declared loudly, "Oh, look, Grace, Blake is here too. Does anyone know how she's living? Too broke to afford an apartment, too broke to own anything but debts." The room filled with nervous laughter and stunned gasps. My heart felt as if it stopped, but I refused to take my eyes off the screen. The crystal chandeliers above seemed to join in the mockery, reflecting laughter and contemptful glances. Family unspoken rule: if I stayed silent, I was weak. If I responded, I was disrespectful. But in that moment, those invisible rules no longer mattered. I knew Brooke believed that public shaming would bring me to my knees, but she was profoundly mistaken. Brooke continued waving her hand at the monitor. Where is she now? Probably cramming into a tiny studio, drowning in unpaid bills. Everyone take a good look at the so-called successful daughter of our parents. Her laughter echoed as some guests whispered among themselves while others filmed on their phones. I pressed my lips together, feeling as though every ounce of my dignity was being trampled. Instead of anger, I drew a deep breath and released it slowly. I tapped record on my phone's live stream, capturing every frame. My silence amid this storm became a silent declaration. I wouldn't let anyone define my worth. When Brooke dropped the mic and stepped back, the room fell silent. I turned off the security feed, exited the control room, and walked into the grand ballroom. Every eye shifted toward me. I strode to the spot Brooke had occupied, lifting my chin high, letting the quiet applause guide me. Though her humiliation echoed in my chest, I chose silence as strength, poised for the next move to turn the tables. After that public humiliation, I knew I couldn't act on impulse. I needed rock-solid evidence to expose Brooke's and my family's schemes. Back at my office, I sat down at my desk with a mental checklist: the forged contract, the fabricated email, the voice memo of her call with our mother, the live stream clips of the entire charade. I powered on my laptop, opened the Brooke evidence folder, and got to work. Every step was calculated. First, I re-examined the $175,000 party confirmation email. The line "verbal confirmation by Grace Blake" was bold at the top, but the strange timestamp 2:00 a.m. revealed it had been sent while I was fast asleep in Miami. I captured a screenshot of the header, saved the metadata, then moved it into the email forgery folder. Next, I played the recording of the phone conversation between Brooke and our mother, Constance Blake. In the audio, Constance explicitly asks, "Does Grace agree to foot the $175K bill?" Brooke replies, "Yes, Mom." She agreed. Then Constance casually adds, "Perfect, no paperwork needed, her word is enough." I clipped that segment into a separate voice memo file and encrypted it to prevent tampering. Finally, I gathered snippets of the live stream from the party the moment Brooke took the stage and branded me homeless before hundreds of guests. I sliced each crucial segment time-stamped with frame notes and mocking laughter, then combined them into live stream clips. Each clip clearly showed Brooke's face the mic and the crowd's disdain. I didn't stop there. I cross-referenced security logs Lucas Graham, my events manager, had inadvertently confirmed that Brooke and her crew entered the hotel through a side door at midnight. I exported those logs, marked them under unauthorized access, and added them to the dossier. Once it was all assembled, I surveyed the Brooke evidence folder, 4 main categories: email forgery, voice memo, live stream clips, security logs. A satisfied smile spread across my face. This dossier was powerful enough to take to court if necessary, or at least strip away any hiding spot Brooke might cling to. Silence had been my weapon until now, but this dossier of crimes was about to become my public arsenal. I forwarded an encrypted copy to Tara Bennett with the subject for legal review. In that quiet moment, I realized the transformation. I was no longer the silent daughter. I was Grace Blake, the woman holding all the power and the truth. I was sitting at my desk, the soft lamplight illuminating the contract I'd just drafted to nullify all of Brooke's demands, when the office doorbell chimed. Tara Bennett, my assistant, opened the door and whispered, "Your mother is here unannounced." My heart clenched. Catherine Blake, the woman who'd never once called to ask, "How are you now?" stood at my office door, presuming she could barge in at will. I rose and walked down the hallway. My mother wore a beige cashmere coat and carried a high-end leather handbag. She didn't smile. Her cold eyes examined every detail of the office, from the lined binders on the shelf to the framed photos on the wall. She placed a black folder on my desk with a soft thud, its presence filling the quiet room. "I'm here for your signature," she said sternly. "The $175,000 birthday party contract is finalized. Sign it, Grace." I inhaled deeply, regarding the folder like a carefully laid trap. Inside was a photocopy of the contract listing me as primary sponsor, along with a clause stating that if Brooke failed to pay, all penalties and legal fees would be my responsibility. I won't sign this," I said slowly. Her brow furrowed, her gaze razor sharp. "If you don't sign this, we'll end up in court. You'll call your lawyer to void it. I'll sue you for breach of commitment." Her tone was cold but commanding. It wasn't an invitation to negotiate. It was an order. I placed both hands on the edge of the desk and closed my eyes for a moment to gather courage. "Mom, I will not let you turn me into an ATM." I opened the folder and pointed to the line "Verbal confirmation by Grace Blake," alongside the forged signature. "You and Brooke falsified my approval. You have no right to saddle me with this liability." My mother straightened her posture, her expression ice cold. "You're disrespecting the family. You've forgotten your gratitude." Anger flared inside me, but I remained calm. There is no gratitude when they see me only as a money source. I built Ocean View Hotel brick by brick without family support. In that moment, I realized how much I'd changed. I was no longer the compliant daughter who bowed to pressure. I smiled slightly and nodded, closing the folder. My decision stands. I will not sign. My mother hesitated, her lips pressed thin, then turned and walked away like a defeated soldier. The door clicked shut, leaving the room in a profound silence, a silence of resolve and newfound freedom. The next morning, I convened an emergency meeting with Lucas Graham, Director of Events, and Tara Bennett in the Ocean View Grand Security Control Room. In front of the array of monitors, I declared, "From this moment forward, no one may alter any detail of the hotel without my explicit approval, including family members." Lucas nodded, and Tara was already poised at her computer. I ordered a lockdown of all side entrances. Access cards were reset, keeping only the executive team's credentials active. We changed the electronic locks on every event space door, and mobile cameras were installed in every blind spot. Our head guard, Jorge, was assigned to man the VIP entrance 24/7 and meticulously verify the approved guest list. Any request to add guests or modify services now required at least 48 hours notice and an official email from me. Next, I locked down the internal booking software. Only I could authorize invoices. Brooke or anyone bearing the Blake name could no longer hit approve. I watched as Lucas swiped the family's card. It was instantly denied. A red light flashed, "Access denied." Seeing the system perform exactly as planned filled me with satisfaction. Throughout the day, desperate texts from Brooke flooded in. "Grace, I only meant to reserve the stage. Why are you locking everything down?" I remained silent. Focusing on my desk, I drafted an internal memo to all staff. Any violation of the new procedures will result in immediate disciplinary action. We uphold the standards and reputation of Ocean View Grand. In the afternoon, I conducted a walkthrough of the premises, the grand lobby, the ballroom, the VIP lounge. Everything was pristine. Not a single sign of chaos or unauthorized interference. I caught my reflection in the glass behind reception, a resolute CEO who wouldn't let anyone exploit her. I picked up the phone and called my legal counsel. "Prepare the dossier for any contract breaches. I'll be ready to litigate." My voice was decisive. This wasn't just about protecting assets, it was the final assertion of power. Ocean View Grand is my empire, and only I control it. As night fell over Miami Beach, the hotel's lights shone brighter than ever. I stood on the balcony gazing at the illuminated facade. In that moment, I realized locking down the empire wasn't merely a security measure. It was a declaration Grace Blake would never be prey again. About 3 days after I locked down every entrance, Brooke showed up again with her film crew in the back hallway of the Ocean View Grand. I was deep in my office when Tara texted Brooke, and her team are at Lobby B setting up a secret brand shoot. I sighed and pushed the door open. There stood Brooke, flanked by 3 unfamiliar faces, a cameraman, a lighting technician, and a stylist, tripods and gear already in place. She looked at me with that confident smile. "Grace, I'm shooting a new branding video. Mind if we use this space?" Her tone was casual yet calculated. I lifted my chin eyes stern. "You're free to source equipment elsewhere." She blinked, surprised I'd refuse on my own turf. I nodded toward the locked service door. "Please leave before security guard Jorge has to intervene." Brooke opened her mouth to protest, but Jorge appeared behind me, shining his flashlight on her. She took a step back, realizing that any unauthorized entry into my empire only dug her deeper into trouble. I placed my hand on the mezzanine railing as a spotlight hit me when I stepped out of the shadows. The bustling noise of the party fell silent in that first instant. Brooke was mid-pose for the camera. Her friends turned toward me, stunned. I drew a deep breath, feeling every gaze fix on me. Slowly, I descended the marble staircase, each step echoing in the hall. As my foot touched the floor, the music cut out. Only the guests' gasps remained. I gripped the microphone Brooke had just used and spoke clearly. "Good evening. I am Grace Blake, President and CEO of the Ocean View Hotel chain." In that moment, the atmosphere shifted. eyebrows shot up, hearts raced, and a murmur spread. CEO Brooks' jaw dropped, her face draining pale. I swept my eyes across the assembled crowd, my voice calm yet authoritative. Everything you see here, from the grand piano to the crystal chandeliers, was made possible by me. The guests burst into scattered applause, not for the party but in astonishment, admiration, and a touch of awe. I set the microphone down and stepped beside Brooke, my gaze unwavering. She tried a forced smile. I returned a gentle one. Happy birthday, Brooke. Welcome to my home. I paused before the assembled guests, my gaze sweeping over Brooke and Shane Warner's family. My voice rang out through the grand hall. This $175,000 party contract, fraudulently signed in my name, will be nullified immediately and unconditionally. I held up the original contract alongside the evidence dossier, forged emails, the call recording, and live stream clips. Any costs or penalties incurred are the sole responsibility of Brooke Blake, not mine. Shane and his family fell pale as they processed the undeniable legal reality. I bent down to pick up the microphone Brooke had dropped, then locked eyes with my sister Brooke. You chose to trespass and fabricate. Now you must face the consequences yourself. The crowd fell utterly silent, save for the faint rustle of pages as I flipped through my evidence. I exhaled calmly and concluded my declaration. From this moment on, Ocean View Grand operates under the sole authority of its one and only CEO, me, Grace Blake. Any further issues involving you and your family will be yours to resolve. I set the microphone down and stepped back, leaving behind an atmosphere charged with astonishment and respect. 1 week later, I stepped into my new office in a Manhattan high-rise. The city that never sleeps stretched out before me in a tapestry of lights and distant sirens. I drew the sheer curtains aside and watched the stream of people below like a pulsating river. Here I was, no longer the invisible daughter in Orlando or the target of family theatrics. I was Grace Blake, the one who laid the first stone for Ocean View Hotel's New York flagship. Every breath of this urban air fueled me. I opened my laptop to the detailed plan for the new hotel. Every number and milestone represented my relentless drive and discipline. I texted Tara, prepare for a grand launch. Wonder if Manhattan is ready to meet Grace Blake. At sunrise, sunlight filtered through the glass towers and reflected on my face a steadfast conviction I had broken free from the shadows of my past, wielding both power and freedom. Here, I began a new chapter where every dream could be realized by my own determination.